Hello, mythology lovers. Welcome back to World of Mythology. Today's video is about the fight of Cadmus and the dragon.
As Cadmus did not dare to go home without his sister, he asked the oracle at the shrine of Apollo what he should do. The shrine of Apollo was in a cave, at the foot of Mount Parnassus, and the oracle was a mysterious voice that seemed to come from the heart of the mountain. The voice told Cadmus to follow a white heifer he would see, and afterward to build a city on the spot where he saw her lie down. After leaving the cave, Cadmus hardly had time to scramble down into the road again, before he saw a white heifer, which he followed, as the voice had told him to do. When the heifer came to a certain beautiful valley, she raised her head, as if she were looking up to heaven, and then made a great lowing, after which she lay down, seemingly quite content with the spot. Cadmus knew that this was the place where he must build his city. Near the spot the heifer had chosen was a grove of very old trees, and among the trees, in a rocky place, was a cave. The mouth of the cave was so choked with willows that one could not see what it was like inside, but Cadmus thought he could hear water trickling down, and the sound seemed so cool and inviting that he sent one of his slaves into the cave to look for a spring. The man did not come back. Then Cadmus sent the other slave to see what had become of the first one. But that one did not come back either, so Cadmus threw a lion's skin around his shoulders, took his lance and his javelin, and went into the mouth of the cave himself. At first, it was so dark inside that he could see nothing. When his eyes had become accustomed to the change, from the bright sunshine he had just left, he saw, in the darkness, two bright spots, and knew that they must be the two eyes of some beast. As he could see better, he made out the form of a huge dragon, lying with one of its ugly claws across something, which he feared might be the body of one of his faithful slaves. He took up a large stone, and hurled it straight at the creature's head, but the scales of the dragon were so hard and tough, that the stone rolled away without doing it any harm. Then he threw his javelin at it, and wounded it with that, but not being much disabled, the creature came out of the cave hissing, and attacked him fiercely. As it came nearer, he pushed his lance straight into its open mouth, and finally pinned it to an oak, which grew there, and so killed it. As Cadmus stood looking at the dragon, he realized that, although he had killed the monster, he had lost his two slaves, and was alone in a strange country, where, without help, he would have to build the city, ordered by the oracle. Just then he was aware that someone was standing at his side. He looked up and saw a tall, strong-looking woman with clear grey eyes. She had a lance in her hand, and a helmet on her head. He knew at once that it was the warrior goddess, Minerva, and as he looked at her, he felt his courage coming back. Minerva told him to plough the ground nearby, and sow the dragon's teeth. This seemed like a strange seed to plant, but Cadmus did as he was bidden to do, and then stood waiting to see what would happen. After a short time, the soil began to heave up a little in places, as it does when corn is growing. Then, instead of blades of corn, sharp steel points began to show. As they came up farther, these looked like spear points. Then helmets appeared all along the rows. Finally, fully armed men had grown up out of the earth, and stood looking around fiercely, ready to fight. Cadmus thought he had a worse enemy now than the dragon, and made ready to defend himself. But there was no need. The armed men were hardly out of the soil before they began fighting, one with another, and they fell so fast that soon only 5 were left. But these last 5 were wiser than their brothers, for they saw that they gained nothing by killing one another. Instead, they threw their arms on the ground with a crash, and shook hands, to see what would come from helping others. This worked much better. Cadmus shook hands with the rest, and then they all united to build the city on the spot where the heifer had lain down. The new city was called Thebes. It was prosperous, and all lived there happily for many years, with Cadmus as king. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share and comment down below. Let's meet again in the future videos.